What a slow week for news in boxing it's been, hasn't it? Really been nothing to talk about, as there at all of note. Cool. No, well, there are a few things to talk about. But you want to talk about what I sort of found interesting about Fabio Wardley's statement after him popping for cocaine post-fight. His test he took before the fight was negative, and as we believe, from what I've read and listened to, he tested post-fight. But I was interested by his statement. So it's a bit long on this, but the interesting bits I found were I do not take any prohibited substances, I do not use performance-enhancing drugs, and I do not support their use. I don't know why there was sort of a lot of emphasis on performance-enhancing drugs because he tested for cocaine. But as I read there, he said, I don't support the use of performance-enhancing drugs, and I've never used them. I just thought it was a strange thing to put in a statement for a test in which the world knows, if it's believed to be true, which we're pretty sure it is now, that he tested positive for cocaine. I didn't see the reason why you would put about performance-enhancing drugs in there. But hey-ho. There is a school of thought that would say if it's post-fight and it's a recreational, that means it's technically not in competition, I would imagine. So I don't know if that makes any differences toward what sort of punishment, ban or whatever would happen to Joseph. It wasn't a performance answer, although there are thousands of people out there on a Friday night that would suggest it does improve performance in certain areas. But it's not a PED, and he's tested post-fight. So will that alter the punishment and alter, the stuff surrounding this test? Who knows? Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul. Now, there's a lot of outrage over this. I can understand why from a point of view, but if you just kind of... Eddie Hearn said that the plan was they were going to have a fight sort of around Christmas or the New Year against a sort of a top 100 guy, and then hopefully move into the Fury fight later in the year. Really, the Fury-Joshua fight is really the only fight really out there for those two that still makes money, and I believe it does still make money. So the plan was a sort of a quote-unquote warm-up against a top 100 guy, and then going into a Fury fight. And Eddie Hearn said, that was still the plan, but we're offered this, and we'll just do this before we do those two. Because on the outside, it's such an easy night's payday, isn't it? I think the split is like 180 million split between the two. So, look, I'm from the camp of, for all the people saying it'll damage his legacy and ruin his legacy, all the people who don't like Joshua, all the Joshua haters, will say his legacy shit anyway. Regardless of what Joshua has done in the past, or from this point on, or in the future, the people who don't like Joshua will just say shit anyway. So it ain't going to make any difference to them, and no one really cares. I like Joshua. I've always been a Joshua fan. I just like the dude, and I think he's been good in his time. I think he's a better heavyweight than people have given him credit for. But does it harm his legacy? I mean, in a professional sense, in a serious side of the sport sense, if he loses, possibly yes, I suppose. But at this point, after the Dubois beating, a lot of us were sort of saying Joshua should really retire anyway. So you can almost call this a post-career fight. If you think that his serious sort of bit of his career is gone, and I even count the Fury Joshua if that happens. I don't kind of put that in with the sort of serious title sort of hunt or title reign career bit, if you know what I mean. And saying if he doesn't knock him out in a round, then that's going to affect his legacy also. It depends on the matter of the victory. If Joshua goes out there and goes safe behind the jab for a round or two, drops the odd right hand over, Jake Paul covers up, doesn't go down. And even if Joshua does it in 3 rounds of that, being safe behind the jab, being conservative, but doesn't get hit the whole time, and it looks like a 3-round spar of which the end he bowls him over and knocks him out and puts him to sleep, I don't think that's really any different than if he knocks him over in a round. So I think the manner of it will matter. Now, if Joshua goes there and Jake Paul will let his hands go. He doesn't seem to have any problem letting his hands go. And he can punch a bit, Jake Paul can. for his size. We've seen that regardless of the opposition. He's fit and he's strong and he can punch a bit. Yeah, there are some, glaringly, bad bits of technique or lack of technique in there, which kind of you'd lead to believe he was at the level of sort of an area title level, and that's probably debatable, but you'd probably say about that. I would expect Joshua to go out there and dispatch him in 1 to 3, depending on how he goes about it, really. And if he really is set on destruction as quick as possible, I believe it will happen in the first, probably. He won't. A lot of people say, "Oh no, there'll be a script." I don't think Joshua's the sort of person that would compromise his performance by having any sort of pre-organised script of how this bout would go. I think Joshua will treat it seriously, and when he gets in there, it's kill or be killed, I believe. As for the people saying that Jake Paul may get killed and seriously injured, as we know in boxing, most of the serious injuries come from successive blows to the head after a long fight. That's where the damage accumulates and occurs. I don't expect this to be the case. The first clean, full-blooded right hand or uppercut or left hook from Joshua and it's over. So I think he'll be dispatched and put to sleep pretty quickly. And quite honestly, is Jake Paul really at any more or less physical harm than, say, a Hellenius was? You've got one older guy who was always going to get knocked out, and you've got one younger guy who's going to get knocked out. Paul's been living the life of a boxer for, 3, 4, 5 years now. He's probably going to spar heavy guys. He's probably sparred heavy guys in the past, I've no doubt. Like, in all honesty, he's at any more really physical danger than any sort of, a lot of other guys. If Joshua fights someone out of the top 100, is Jake Paul in any more physical danger than any of them? No, not really, not in all honesty. Do I hate it? Look, I'll watch it. I'm neutral to it because I kind of respect the hustle. And any other fighter out there is going to take the same thing. Of course they would. They'd be stupid not to. 70 million plus for a relatively easy night's work. As Eddie Hearn said, you can't eat your legacy. And it's not the fact that Joshua's skint and needs money because he can't eat. But you'd be fucking stupid. You'd just be fucking. If this was while Joshua was still a title holder, or Joshua was on the way up as the prospect aiming towards it, then yeah. But at the stage he's at now, look, just take it for what it is. It's a big fucking payday, and I'm not going to deny anyone a big payday. Yeah, I'm not going to. It's not going to be. It's not on the serious professional boxing landscape. It's in that area, just outside. It won't be the first of these type things. It's not the first of these things, and it won't be the last. So I'm kind of neutral to it. I'll watch it. I don't blame him. How can you blame him? How can you blame the guy? And Joshua's got enough haters, So when you're in that position where half of these people fucking hate you, and who gives a fuck? Like, who gives a fuck? You carry on hating, I'll bag myself 70 million. Simple as that, innit? What else was there to talk about? Joshua. Fabio Wardley installed as WBO champion, which is, me, a big Fabio fan, always have been. You watch me long enough, you know that. So absolutely fantastic for Fabio. A lot of discussion. I think Fabio, I did listen to an interview with him yesterday on Queensbury. I can't remember if he mentioned it, but I'm sure Fabio will want to win that kind of in a ring. He's been installed, but he'll want a fight so he can raise that belt after winning a fight, no doubt, because it's not the same as being installed. A lot of discussion is who he will face first. I haven't watched a lot of stuff surrounding it other than the Fabio interview, but there does seem to be a problem with Queensbury in the WBO title now because Fabio is a Queensbury fighter and Moses Itauma is a Queensbury fighter. As Fabio is now champion, Moses Itauma is now number 1 contender, followed by Filip Hrgović, who's number 2 contender. We know that Itauma is fighting Franklin, which I think is a decent fight, and that's fairly soon. Happy with that, didn't have a problem with that. But I did say in the video leading up to I would have liked Itauma to fight Hrgović. That would have been a great test. I think winnable. I'd put a lot of money on Itauma beating Hrgović. I kind of see Hrgović now as kind of a live gatekeeper almost. And I think a lot of people see him that way. So, and are we led to believe, is this true? I'm sure like Rem will let me know, or one of the other guys out there. As he's installed, rather than it went vacant and was boxed by number one, number two, he's been installed as champion. Is that kind of like treated the same as winning it then? Does that mean that he will be able to have a mandatory next, a voluntary next and not a mandatory? Because how does Frank Warren handle that? Both Queensberry fighters, Fabio's done so well and deserves to have that title for a little while. On merit, he's got to box people and beat people to keep it. But would Warren want Fabio's? And there is no guarantee that if Itauma boxed Wardley now that Itauma would win. No guarantee at all. Anything is possible with Wardley at this point. He would be the underdog, and Itauma would probably be the A side. Which, if you never seen these two and you just looked on paper, you'd say, well, why is this guy the A side? But I don't think Frank Warren is going to be in a hurry, really, to get these guys to box, if I'm honest. I don't, yes, Itauma can come again, but a certain amount of the marketability and the story is lost if he loses in a first world title against Fabio Wardley. And I don't think I think he'll think Fabio has got a chance against anyone because of Fabio's attributes. So I don't think he'll necessarily want them to meet. What would be great is that because Itauma was boxing in, is it December, January, Christmas time-ish, he's booked out anyway, isn't he, for the next foreseeable 3-4 months, shall we say, by the time he'd come around after the Franklin fight to box again. So there'd be a long wait for that anyway. So I think if Fabio Wardley has a voluntary, I don't know who he'd pick. You guys let me know who would be good picks for Fabio Wardley as a first voluntary defence. But we've now got genuine reason for if he comes through the Franklin fight, it would be for, and hopefully that could be a fairly quick turnaround, because wouldn't it be great to see, and this is who I wanted at the time, this is who I'd have liked to see a Itauma box instead of Franklin. I don't mind the Franklin fight, but I would have loved Hrgović. Well, what a prime time for Hrgović and Itauma to box for the opportunity as an eliminator for Fabio Wardley's WBO, while in the meantime, Fabio probably going to want a bit more time off before he boxes a voluntary. Itauma and Hrgović box as an eliminator, and then we get the winner of that a little bit down the line, whatever. That's the sort of scenario I see. Don't know if it could work like that, but I kind of like the idea of that. Loads of fights this weekend. Big card over in Saudi. My main interest in that is Anthony Yarde, big Anthony Yarde fan, as you know. I tell you what, listening to a lot of Benavidez in sort of interviews this week, he's a top guy in Benavidez, proper nice dude, proper grounded dude, proper nice dude. Was a real fat kid, weren't he? And then lost all his weight, But I like both of these guys. Is Benavidez going to be as an effective puncher up at this weight? He hasn't looked so far, but it has been debatable opposition in terms of levels. But at light heavy, so is he still a puncher up at light heavy? Yarde is a puncher. We know Yarde's a puncher. I do see this as, again, as with all sort of Yarde's world title shots, he has to win it early-ish, so definitely first half of the fight, because Benavidez has an engine, a mad engine, and he can punch. Yarde is kind of, when he's throwing punches, especially when he's in distance, he can't throw single shots or just 1-2s. I think he's got to box in combinations and kind of get out again, because if you stand in range of Benavidez up closer in the mid-range, he lets those hand goes and he can throw 7s and 8s, consecutively. He produces some weird angles and some weird looking punches, but damn, he's effective. His hands are fast. So Yarde has really got to do his damage. Kind of probably at a bit of range and making sure that he brings his hands back high and adjusts his feet and gets out of that way before Benavidez can let those flurries go. So be a great fight while it lasts. Is it a last too far? Benavidez is still, we could say, kind of untested at light heavyweight. So you would pick Benavidez, wouldn't you? But you never know. he's in with a real big, strong, heavy punching opponent in Anthony Yarde. So I really like both guys. I'd love to see Anthony Yarde win. I would, because I just want to do. I think he's good. But on the same token, I do like Benavidez, and he's a real good dude. So yeah, that was it. I'll see you all soon.